Tensions in Rene have boiled over, and old wounds of years, decades, and even centuries ago are bursting to the forefront. Ready to talk about Into the Flickering Dark Part 2? Well, let's go, after a message to our heroes. Hey there, this is Colin, creator of the 7th Valkyrie. If you're hearing this, it means you're listening to the public version of TABTA. And I really appreciate that. It keeps the algorithm happy, it keeps us growing. But if you want to get a little fun personal message every week with behind-the-scenes stories, funny little bits, other insight into the creative process, you can hop over to our Patreon and become a hero of Edera. You'll support the series, you can shape the future of the 7th Valkyrie, and find a whole lot of fun bonus content along the way. You can get started completely for free, and then if you decide you want to chip in and get bonus content, early access, and a whole lot more and help us along the path of heroes towards a whole lot of cool checkpoints, then you can do that. It's patreon.com/7th Valkyrie, that's 7THVALKYRIE, and give it a look. With that, on into the show. Hello everyone and welcome to TABTA, the adventure behind the adventure for the 7th Valkyrie, where we watch one series go from total obscurity to maybe 7 seasons in a movie, or maybe we just all find the power of friendship along the way. I'm your host Colin Sharp, creator and current voice of the 7th Valkyrie, and this week we're talking about Into the Flickering Dark Part 2. This came out on Friday, so if you haven't had a chance to listen, or if you're not a hero of Edera and you're not already ahead, then beware, spoilers, because we're going to start first with our first segment called Inside the Episode, where we'll break down what happened. Just give you kind of a summary of what all went on. I know I can get a little stylistic, so let's hit the highlights, and then we'll talk about a little bit of the behind-the-scenes stuff. So first, let's get into the episode. People who haven't listened to it, forewarned, we're going to talk about Into the Flickering Dark Part 2. So if you're listening, again, go listen to it. Or if you're okay with hearing about what happened via this episode, then great. Anyway, so in part 2 of this chapter, we heard part 1 last week, but in part 2, after BC and Krona's kind of back and forth little tiff and his coin flip, we get Krona's confrontation with the 4 families, who know now that they have been tricked, but they've got a lot of tricks up their sleeve too, and they decide they're willing to take the advantage that Krona has offered them. They're pretty upset with the fact that they came very close to getting betrayed, but one by one they decide to leave Krona be for now and let him uphold his end of the agreement, despite the fact that he betrayed and slaughtered most of Edera in command and might have done the same to them. Still, he's got forces, and he's going to help them sweep in to control the other side of Rene to attack the new city. He gave them their opening, so they're like, all right, well, we'll take it. Now, that also leaves us with a question. Before I got at the TABTA last week, if you're a regular TABTA listener, I kind of asked, I was like, is there anyone still around to defend Rene? And the answer is yes, actually, because we cut from BC's departure with Krona, the continued attack on the new city, and we get to see a little interaction with Meridia. We see her getting her bearings about 80 feet below the surface, and it definitely begs the question, is it the best idea to wear heavy armor when you're on the water? Who knows? Like, the Ederans do need to try to squeeze out every advantage they can get against the Freelanders, so you can see why they do it. And fortunately, Meridia is able to get back up to the surface, despite losing the awesome She-Fox armor that she seemed so stoked to get to use a couple chapters ago. That one was fun. I love her. And for all that's going on, for all that Edera in command deserved it a little bit to get cut in half by a giant magical blade, she does return, and she goes back into the fray because she's honoring her duty to the end. And we have this incredible interaction with Yosin, which is going to be the subject of our second segment, which I call Outside the Episode, where I take a little step back, talk about the creative process, talk about behind the scenes, and stuff like, oh, Yosin's voice still fucking hurts my throat. But from the production and creative perspective, this moment that we've been building to kind of all season was one of my favorites in the entire series so far. Yosin's been kind of building heat on himself for ages. We see him just constantly getting in the way, his incompetence and arrogance. He's got this plan, and he does seem good at motivating men and, kind of counteracting things, making things happen. But he's just such a bleeping dick, and he's been bullying Meridia, disrespecting her, spitting on her, disregarding her skill, and just utterly delusional and incapable of admitting that she's a fucking badass. And because that would require him admitting that, like, in some way down the road he had been wrong, and he's just not capable of doing that. And it costs him in the end, not just his lower half of his body, but his life. He was already on the way out, he was dying, and yet Meridia, for all that she's hated him, she still goes back in to save him. She still goes back to honor the duties of her position because she does believe in kind of the Edarin myth-making that, like, they are more than people, that they have a greater duty. And, she plans, despite how much she hates him personally, she honors that Edarin code and wants to give him some sort of burial at sea or at least get his final orders. But Yosin is Yosin to the very end. And, like, when faced with the fact that the only person who was smart enough to get through and get away from all this stuff was Meridia, he's just demeaning and belittling again because he can't handle it. He utterly refuses to see reality. And I mean, he tells her to give up on her life as a soldier and basically spend the rest of hers as this prophet telling the story of his success. And it's not even real. He failed. And so there was a moment, did you wonder whether she was, like, so humble and so kind of desperate for Edarin approval, that she was going to, like, listen to him? Because there have been some elements of Meridia, like, having this borderline fanatical devotion to the Iron Wolf, to the Edarin myth-making. But even for somebody who has, like, put her head down believing that it's her duty to do so for her entire life, this request from Yosin, like, and just letting him, like, just drift off thinking that it's just a bridge too far for her. And you can see that it's a huge turning point for her because she's feeling the weight of all the lives he's cost, already and will cost in the future with his delusions and his unwillingness to accept that things can change. And she just rejects the idea that he gets to die feeling like a hero, that he gets to die, like, without someone just telling him straight to his face that that he lost this for them. And so she pushes him away, she spits in his face and watches him die, and then returns to shore. And it's savage, it's viscerally satisfying at times. It's also not quite justice. It's brutal. It's unforgiving. But at the same time, Marie doesn't really have time to think about it because she's got a battle to fight. And who of us doesn't wish we could have done the same thing? Anyway, but we will see how that battle goes in the next chapter coming up, that Hateful Frenzy, which is already available for Heroes of Edera Online. For everybody else, part 1 is coming out on Friday. And as soon as I finish recording this, I'm going to be hopping in to listen to a couple new chapters that Zoran just sent me. Big progress, big moves, guys. Sending you all a lot of love. Keep you posted.